This one's in Buffalo. Buffalo's coming off of a pretty convincing win with the Seattle Seahawks. And honestly, I don't mean this to be insulting to any Buffalo Bills fans who might be watching and listening to the show, but I feel like Buffalo is playing better than certainly I expected them to play this season. I looked at their roster and I said, man, it's going to take a lot from Josh Allen. I feel like there might be a little bit too much on his plate, but the team is playing well as a team. And I think that you see that in the win column as well. They've been really good over the last 3 or 4 years. They continue to be good this year. Divisional matchup. Tua Tagovailoa is back in the lineup. I think the offense looked a lot more like we are used to seeing from Miami last week, albeit in a loss. But Carmen, what's your matchup that matters here for this divisional matchup?
Yeah, I think that Josh Allen took that overrated comment pretty to heart, or pretty personally.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about Josh Allen as being one of the elite quarterbacks here, that does include being able to elevate the team around you. And I think I was higher on the Buffalo Bills actually than most people were coming into this season because I had a lot of faith in Josh Allen. Honestly, the biggest thing that made me question how good the Bills were going to be was the Matt Milano injury, which was just heartbreaking for him as a player, given how good he is and how much he means to that defense. And were they going to be able to contend with it? And they have. But to get to my matchup that matters, though, it actually ends up being a guy like James Cook. And another one that, he kind of had a breakout season last year. And I felt like, all right, this is only going to continue to ascend. And we've seen kind of some up and down production from him this season so far in Buffalo's willingness to run the ball. But then you saw games like this last one against Seattle where they handed the ball off to James Cook 17 times, 111 yards, multiple touchdowns. This is something that James Cook should be used for on a consistent basis because, again, it opens things up for Josh Allen, for the receivers, which, having Amari Cooper now a little bit more entrenched in the scheme, that should really help out this and round out this offense. But I really still think that even with Josh Allen as your quarterback and having Amari Cooper, that you should still look to the ground more often than not, or at least have a really even split when you have a guy like James Cook, who is also capable of catching some passes too out of the backfield. So he's just such a good, well-rounded dual threat player. And I could not be happier for the way that he's been able to produce when he's trusted with the ball. So keep doing it, Buffalo.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. James Cook's a massive part of this offense, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. So I think that that's a really good shout out by you. We're looking for the Dolphins to sort of snap back into this just really explosive offense. And they're, 16 plays, gaining 20 or more yards, at least in the NFL at this point in time. Now, obviously, you're missing Tua Tagovailoa for a lot of that, but I don't know if this matchup against Buffalo is the one where you're really going to be able to see them kind of snap back into place. Because when you look at the Buffalo Bills and they're covering deep passes, they're ninth best in the NFL in receptions to 15 or more yards allowed. They've allowed just 20 so far this year. And they're eighth best in the NFL at completion percentage allowed when passing 15 or more yards down the field at just 33.5%. So Buffalo's defense is sort of made to put a cap on what passing offenses are able to do. And I think that rolls right into my plus factor, which is Tyreek Hill for this game, who has yet to have a 100-yard game against the Buffalo Bills in his career, whether it's been with the Miami Dolphins or the Kansas City Chiefs. So Tyreek, who, we're doing the show on a Wednesday, so we've got some, injury reports to kind of monitor throughout the next couple of days, but Hill, they didn't see him at the open portion of practice when the media was there for a foot injury. I didn't see anything super serious there. It's obviously worth monitoring. But if he plays, which I think he's going to play this week, he is going to be a major X factor in what they're able to do, because can they truly break this Buffalo Bills defense and do exactly what they want to do and be that explosive offense? Because we just have not seen that a lot yet from Miami, and they're sort of running out of time for, even if they get back to the version of this offense that we think they're going to be, is it going to be too little too late when it comes to the win column because of how poorly they played while Tua Tagovailoa was out? So look for Tyreek Hill to be the spark, as he often can be. I know that's sort of an obvious one, but certainly with a team that knows how to play him well, if he can really get over the top, at least even once, it might make the big difference here in this divisional matchup. But what's your plus factor here?
Yeah, mine was Tyreek Hill too, because you looked at, he talked a lot when Tua was coming back last week ahead of the Cardinals game where he said, "Oh, we're back, baby, we're back." And to To his credit, it was a little bit. I mean, he had 6 catches on 9 targets, 72 yards in that game. That's certainly not what we think of, though, when we think of Tyreek Hill going off or him and Tua Tagovailoa being back. So I really do think that that was a ramp-up game. And to be clear, I completely understand it. Obviously, that's Tua's first game back in the lineup. He's still getting adjusted back to game speed, all that other stuff. But I absolutely now think like you need to start being the Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa that we know, and pushing the ball down the field minimum, 10, 15 yards, and then using that speed if you're Tyreek Hill to then go the rest of the way. I want to see fireworks. I want to see the guy that had over 200 yards in the first quarter against the Buccaneers just a few years ago, which I was that I will never forget, literally, when he was still with the Kansas City Chiefs in that Super Bowl year. So that was not in the Super Bowl, but in that year when they played them
right. Earlier in the year, then
crystal clear again. That's the kind of production I want to see out of Tyreek Hill, because if you're going to talk like that, you need to back it up. And 72 yards isn't impressing me when I know what you're capable of.
Dave Salfaro, our Do Everything guy at PFF, wanted to make sure that I corrected myself here. Hill did have 150 receiving yards in the 2021 AFC Championship game against Buffalo. He's never had 100 yards against them in the regular season.
So got it.
Just wanted to make sure that we got that correct before we moved on here. But I do agree with you. I think he's got to play a major factor here for this game.